Okay, these are the 1978 Yamaha XS400 carburetors, and I'm going to show you sort of the basic parts and then how to take everything apart and maybe some general tips about what you should know when you're cleaning them. So basically, this is them when they're right side up. Air goes inside here. Right, this is like the Venturi. Your diaphragms would be up here, at the top here. And these are the bowls at the bottom. Fuel is going to enter through the side. There's a fuel hose with the inline fuel filter. It's going to go into this bowl. There is right here in the middle another tube which connects to the far carburetor, and that's how fuel gets over there. This right here is going to adjust your idle. This little screw is going to adjust your idle right there. And then on the other side, there's another screw between them. This one a little better. There's another screw right here, if you can see that. And this one right here is how you adjust the carburetor sink. This is going to control the butterfly valves and how they open in unison. So you would adjust this to very finely tune how soon one butterfly valve opens in relation to the other, because things are not going to be perfect, so they ideally probably won't be exactly the same. These are your idle fuel mixture needles right here, or screws. Call them screws, but they got a point. The point comes through here. You can see a tiny little hole. So when these things are screwed all the way in, you can actually see the point plugging the hole in here. I think the recommended turns for this is 3 to 3.5 turns out from completely closed. Make sure that when you completely close these, use your hand, or if you use a screwdriver to do this, because maybe it's a little tough, make sure that you move very slowly, and when you feel any resistance at all, sort of stop. If you have them off the engine, you can clearly see when the tip is blocking the hole. If you squeeze too hard there, you'll snap the tip off. It'll get stuck in here, and you'll have a lot of problems. Getting it out is a pain. I've heard of people getting it out, but it's definitely going to be difficult. Alright, now back to the other side. Here we've got a pilot air jet. There's a pilot jet, which actually has fuel going through it, and this is the pilot air jet right there. I've never seen a replacement for the 78, so these should be fine. They're huge, they don't really get clogged, but you want to clean all these holes anyway. Don't confuse this with the pilot jet if somebody's talking about it. They usually mean the fuel, pilot fuel jet. This would be the air jet, the amount of air that's coming in. And this tends to be what gets blocked by cheap MGO pod filters. If you have them directly on the carburetor body, there's an inner lip that kind of blocks all of these intakes here, and that will cause you problems. Either you get a more expensive filter, or you use the plastic bodies that come off here and attach the pods to that if you were going to use them. This right here, if you want to separate the carburetor bodies, you're going to have to take this big bracket off. I'm not going to do that now. Even when I cleaned them completely, I did take them apart just to see how it worked, but it's not really necessary. Another general tip is if you're using things like carburetor cleaner, do not expose anything made of plastic or rubber, or gaskets that are made of plastic or rubber, anything like that, to the carburetor cleaner, because it will melt it. This doesn't have an instantly or anything like that. So fast, quick exposures, if you clean it up real quick, it's probably fine, but just don't let it sit on there, because it will actually melt these things. Alright, so I'm going to take the float bowls off. Alright, so you've got your bowls, and these are the drain plugs. This, I believe, mine happens to be a 10mm screw, but these just unscrew out, and this is how you would drain the bowl of fuel if you were interested in doing that, which you'll probably want to do before you start working on them, because there's probably going to be some fuel left in them if you just took them off the engine. Pull that off. I'm just going to go ahead and do one for the sake of speed here, so this video isn't too long. Okay, when we're pulling this off, mine was initially difficult. I broke it free, so it was kind of stuck. The gasket kind of fused here a little bit. And I just whacked this whole thing with a rubber mallet, kind of firmly, didn't kill it, and that kind of broke it loose. I removed it very slowly so as not to damage the gasket. Now when you pull this off, you've got a gasket on here. Don't disturb the gasket if you don't have to. In the old carburetors, this is probably the only thing you'll have to replace, if anything. If it looks really gnarly, you can replace that, but generally there's not a whole lot of problems that occur with these, I find. Just be careful, don't take it off unless you absolutely need to. Alright, so inside we've got some anatomy from in here. You have your floats, which are these big, happen to be brass things here. This is your main jet, this big one right here, and above it right here, there's a plug, a brass plug on this model, and this is blocking the pilot jet. The pilot jet is actually behind this plug. The main jet is fully exposed right here. When you're removing any of these, make sure you use an appropriately sized screwdriver that fits the gap in the jet as snug as you can get it, because these are made of brass and they'll basically bend and get distorted very easily. And when you're retightening them in later, make sure you don't over tighten them. They just need to be snug. Don't kill it. You'll destroy the brass. It's very soft. Is what I'm trying to say. Now, if you've got your carburetors on the side, you can see the float right here. If somebody's telling you to check your float height, which we're probably telling you to do constantly on the forums, this is how you would do it. You can either use a special tool for that costs a lot of money, or you can get something like a little tape measure here, or a ruler, it's a little steel ruler, something like that. And what you're measuring is the base of where the gasket would sit inside the lip to the very top of this round part, the top of the round part up here. You can't really see that, the lighting sucks in here. And so you're measuring from the base here to here. See, so it's like you would be looking at it here. Make sure you get eye level with the float. Measure it from both sides. Put the tape measure behind the other one on the other side. This is difficult to do, but you can do it, because these two different round pieces to the float can easily become bent independently, so you got to make sure both of them are the same, not just the one. Alright, so now removing the main jet is very easy. You get your appropriately sized screwdriver and you simply unscrew that. Underneath it is a little brass washer. Remove that washer, and this will expose the emulsion tube. You cannot remove this emulsion tube without first removing the diaphragms, because there's a needle that goes inside the emulsion tube. Just for reference, the needle normally blocks the main jet. It just sort of plugs it up, and when air goes into the venturi, the more air that's flowing through, you get some sort of vacuum effect, and then the needle comes out, and then fuel sprays through the main jet as opposed to just the pilot jet. This is that emulsion jet. And that's what that does. So I'm going to remove the pilot jet plug. Alright, so pilot jet plug is out. And, okay, and if you look inside here, you'll never be able to see that, but inside the hole, the smaller one, up here, you're going to see, right inside there, the little one, that's where the pilot jet is. Now you're going to need a very small flathead screwdriver for this. Something like this size. When you're fishing this out to unscrew it, be careful. The thread is sort of shallow to pull it out. I just broke it loose. Alright, you just twist it nice and easy, and when it's totally loose, don't try to dig it out with anything. I think even the manual recommends digging it out, and I think that's really silly. But what you do is just simply turn the carburetor upside down. Shake it, out it goes. So there's your little pilot jet. You can't even see that. This is a little tiny thing. Alright. And we're going to go on to part 2.